Continuation of HOA wants me to join, so I do, just not how they expected. About 3 months back, and is apparently leaving the country for Australia. I found out that the HOA had successfully sued him for a crap load of money. They had lost to his mismanagement as part of his vendetta against me. I also learned that he had a vendetta against me. I have no idea what I did to upset him. I'm not sure if I will screw with the HOA anymore. I already think I'm so close to breaking them. The only thing stopping them from canceling the contract is the massive financial loss if they do. I guess a lot depends on how they treat me and my tenants going forward. Also, I do like the monthly payments though, so I'm motivated to play nice. Neighbor oxygen monoxide was right. Though, in the end, you really shouldn't sign documents unless you understand what you are signing. TLDR HOA president gets me to join the HOA under false pretenses that get upheld in court. Then finds out that he signed up literally the wrong property and has to resign after getting the HOA into an incredibly expensive situation that it cannot get out of. Thank you everyone win. I posted this here, it was because I felt like I could fly and wanted to share. Now the adrenaline is gone and I feel like I've been kicked by a donkey. I thought some people would like the story but also thought it was too long for most. It seems I may have been very wrong. There are so many people commenting and sending messages that I cannot keep up. Thank you all so very much.
Moving on to our next story.
I don't care if he is dead, put him on the phone. I was sent here on a recommendation from another sub with a story you guys might like, first time poster, on mobile, etc. My father died on Father's Day 2012. He was divorced and living alone. And I am an only child, so that means that I had to wrap up all of his affairs. This story centers around us trying to get his utilities canceled. I called in to see what we had to do to get them to cancel. The lady I spoke with on the phone said to send in his certified death certificate. I sent in the certified copy of his death certificate the next day. The next month got another bill. I called again and a new woman answered. She said that because I wasn't on the account that she had to speak with the account holder. I informed her that the account holder was dead but she wouldn't budge. I had to make an appointment with a supervisor so she could speak to him herself in person. I showed up at the Board of Public Utilities with another death certificate and his ashes in the clear bag that they returned his remains in. I plopped them down on the center of her desk and said when she talked to him to tell him that I loved him for me. The woman went pale, flew out her chair, and called the cops. When they showed up, she claimed that I had assaulted her, and yes, my dad's remains were still sitting in the middle of her desk with the death certificate. The cops questioned me as to why I would do that. I told them the story. The supervisor's boss was called in and they all stepped away from the desk for a private talk. While they were talking, the cops came over to talk to me. They said that I shouldn't take human remains out in public, but there was no laws that were broken. I said that I agreed with them that it was extreme, but she insisted to speak with him in person. By then they were done talking between themselves. The supervisor's boss kissed up to me and got it taken care of, but the story isn't over yet. I had to call back a few days later to get utilities back to the house in my name. When the person on the phone saw the address and my name, I was immediately put on hold. The supervisor's boss that finally helped me got on the phone. She sucked up to me and waived all of the fees that come with setting up utilities. Just as the call was ending, she informed me that she was again so sorry for the employee's lack of compassion. She said that the employee was terminated and again she is so very sorry. TLDR, ignorant employee asked to speak to dead dad, had a meeting in person, brought his ashes, got her fired. Edit, I can't believe this blew up. I'm so grateful for all of the love and support in this post. And for those who doubt the validity of the story, I hope when you are in my shoes and doing the same that you have an easier time than I did. Before we proceed to the comments, subscribe now. Relevant comments. When my father-in-law died, I had a similar issue. Had to officially inform some organization of his death by faxing his death certificate. The left hand didn't know what the rightus was doing and kept getting hassled over it. Well, where I work we use e-faxing, so I set up a little script. I faxed them his death certificate every hour for 3 days over the weekend. Oddly enough, they got the memo. Another one says, similar thing happened in the UK that made national news. An elderly lady had died and her daughter was looking after the estate. She had been on benefits due to her health. And despite the daughter repeatedly telling the Department for Work and Pensions that her mother had died, they kept sending her letters to say they were going to carry out a health assessment to reevaluate her benefits. Daughter eventually agrees, waits in her mother's house with her ashes, and when the assessor turns up and asks where the mother is, the daughter pointed to the urn on the coffee table. It made the news because it is a perfect example of the lack of communication between departments in the DWP. Moving on to our next story, like this video for 456 years of luck. My neighbors wanted to call a professional to mark their property line. My parents agreed. This was a long time ago, but I remember it clearly. We moved into a community with tight space in between our house and our neighbors, and we didn't like them being able to see into our kitchen. We put up a bunch of plants, costing thousands, but my parents thought it would be worth it. A week later, my parents awoke to the plants completely chopped down. My father was furious and marched down to our neighbor's house. He told my father the plants were on his property line, therefore he had total right to take them down. He warned that if anything were to go on his property again, he would report us to the authorities immediately. Later that day, my father called the company that put in the plants, and with the warranty we could have them replanted next week for no charge. We made sure there was no way it was on our neighbor's property. However, a few days later we caught him chopping them down at 2 a.m. We called the police upon obstruction of property, and after a chat with my neighbor, he decided to call a professional and mark his property line. My father agreed. A few days later, I got home to find orange tape in my neighbor's yard. Apparently, his fence was 11 feet over our property line. We watched as he took down his fence. Completely furious, within the next month we were enjoying our new space and privacy in our backyard, and my neighbor ended up losing 1/4 of his backyard. My neighbor ended up having to pay almost $10K for the destruction of our property, and we got to plant our plants again. Too long didn't read, my neighbor chopped down our plants because he claimed we were on his property after calling a professional. He lost 11 feet of his backyard and had to pay for destruction of property, and we got to keep our plants.
Moving on to our next story.
Get rid of my vacation? Have fun replacing me. I originally posted this as a comment on another thread, but realized it needed its own limelight. I worked at a company that gave out exorbitant amounts of vacation. Anyone who worked there for 25 plus years received 8 weeks of vacation and 2 weeks of personal time. This was a family-owned company, but rather large. We ran 3 shifts totaling to 150 plus people. Enter Jimmy. Jimmy was a grizzled old man. He started at the company when he was just 20, now he was 63 and gave absolutely zero shits. Jimmy also knew how to make a specific part for our product. Him and one other higher up in the office. One day the plant owner comes out and announces he's selling to a corporation. He's older and ready to retire. He promises that there will be very little change and wishes us all well. The new company comes in and immediately goes after many of the great benefits we had. The first thing they do is cut everyone's max vacation down to 4 weeks, and do completely away with personal time. Anyone who's maxed out had until December 31st of that year to use it up, and they wouldn't pay it out. They then go into the office and clean house, firing anyone who's close to retirement, including Jimmy's backup, but they also do away with one very important rule. You no longer have to get vacation approved, you can just call in and take it. Jimmy is pissed, and they know it. They realize he's the only one in the building that can do his job now. So they hire a new kid for him to train, most likely to permanently replace Jimmy. So Jimmy does what anyone would do. He calls in the first training day for the new hire, and lets us know he's going to use all of his PTO at once, and promptly takes 10 weeks off. We had a backstock of parts he had made, so it wasn't too unnerving. But for 10 weeks, Jimmy went and applied to other jobs, found one, and started. Fast forward 10 weeks, it's the day Jimmy is supposed to return. He doesn't. For 2 days they try calling him and even go to his house. He's nowhere to be found. Finally on day 3 he calls and resigns, and they lose their shit. The parts he makes are specialized and patented by the original founder. You can't just hire someone off the street to make them. What eventually happened was they had to contract the original owner to come in and teach some new hires how to make them. And when he found out what all they had done, it pissed him off. The last I heard, he charged them a 7-figure contract to teach them how to produce the parts, and they had to pony up or close down. Moral of the story: don't fuck with people's vacation time. Edit. Jimmy made an electronic control module that was sealed and stayed fixed in a poured unit made of a 2-part epoxy. Edit. #2 Jimmy didn't exactly miss out on a 7-figure contract and had zero chance to take one. He left, said fuck em, and moved on. When they contacted the previous owner and explained the situation, it was basically a "you need my help? It'll cost $1 million" type of conversation. Final update: thank you everyone for all of the attention this received. I had no idea this would blow up like this. I have immediate family working with the company still, so if I hear of any more rumblings, I'll fill you all in. Also, I worked here for 4 years. I have a few other Jimmy stories I may post at other times on the appropriate Reddits. Thank you all again. July 28, 2025. This post is still rolling in comments and likes, and I can't believe how it's blown up. Jimmy is still around. I see him from time to time, especially at the local watering hole. He's still kicking and is still his old self. The company we worked for had a major restructuring about 2 years ago, and things have gotten better there, so Jimmy went back. I myself have moved on to bigger and better things. But after constant contact from their new HR and talent recruitment program asking me to come back, I've decided to at least have a sit down with them. I showed Jimmy this post one night and his reaction was comical in itself. Those fucktards didn't know who they were messing with. They sure as shit know now. Take in mind, he was probably 2 buckets in at this point. At the time of his re-employment, they were shaking things up due to a scare that the employees had brought a union in and were gearing up to vote on the matter. Part of his stipulations for going back were the reinstatement of all the benefits he'd lost, and the dealing with of 2 of the problem higher-ups, an issue that had been brought up by several other employees at that time. 2 weeks after he started back, both were walked out of the building and told to not return. I can imagine the smile on his face as he waved goodbye to both of them. I'll be working by his side in the near future if things go well. Maybe I'll even ask for more vacation time, thanks to all of you so invested in this story. I'm sure I'll have more to add in the near future. I wore a suit to work and got my supervisor soft demoted. I'm posting mainly because I'm not a passive-aggressive type and I'm in disbelief that this actually worked. Ever since I started at my job a few months ago, my supervisor, will call him Josh, has been micromanaging me. When I'm the subject of criticism, which is often, I try to give him the benefit of the doubt and ask him to clarify. What are your expectations? What specifically should I have done differently? Josh's responses are always vague, often something to the effect of just do better. I even had a meeting with Josh and HR to address this, but to no avail. Yesterday, Josh comes to my desk to tell me I need to dress better. Now, I work at a small company and the vibe is unusually casual. A not insignificant number of people come to work wearing jeans, hoodies, t-shirts, and/or baseball caps. I have never worn a hat to work, and I make a point of wearing a button-up shirt with a collar every day. This particular day I was wearing a long-sleeve button-up flannel, chino pants, and Adidas Gazelles. Other days I wear loafers and dress shirts that are tucked in. So, I asked Josh to clarify. Should I be wearing dress shoes? Dress shirt, tucked in? What specifically do you want me to change? Josh tells me I just need to dress better and that I should talk to HR for clarification. So I go into HR and ask, what is the dress code? I get a standard answer, pants, closed-toed shoes, no sleeveless shirts, etc. I ask, have I ever worn anything to work that poses a problem? HR says no, you're fine, because I'm mad. And because my repeated efforts to resolve this kind of problem had gone unheeded, I decided to be petty. The next day today, I showed up to work in a full suit. It's one I keep for events like weddings, so it's fitted and I look really sharp in it. It's also wildly and conspicuously overdressed for the office I work in. I had several interactions with people coming to my desk to comment on my outfit and ask what the occasion was. When anyone asked, only if they asked, I told them I had been told to dress better. This was always met with disbelief and incredulity. People even said they liked the way I dress normally. When anyone asked me who the order came from again, only if they asked, I told them it came from Josh. I was expecting to pull my little stunt for a week just to prove a point, and then go back to wearing what I had been wearing before. Word got around the office fast, apparently, because the CEO, Josh's direct boss, came to my desk later in the day to tell me I would be reporting to him now, and that he'd be having a talk with Josh about this and other issues. It's important to note that I was Josh's only underling, so he effectively went from being a supervisor to just a regular employee. I'm on a bit of a high now. I think I'm going to come into work tomorrow wearing a different one of my flannels. Edit, this blew up. Thank you for all the support. No, this isn't AI and I didn't use chat to edit for style or grammar. I genuinely like M dashes and I use them regularly in writing, I promise.